Everyone, myself Surendra. I am from NewZen Infotech. Today I am going to explain one very important and that much of interesting concept, that is nothing but polymorphism. Polymorphism. Now observe sir here very clearly. Polymorphism is nothing but an object shows different behavior at different stages of its life cycle. Is nothing but polymorphism. Okay now? An object shows different behavior at different stages of its life cycle is known as polymorphism. Here polymorphism is nothing but an object shows different behavior at different stages of its life cycle is nothing but polymorphism. Now observe very clearly. I'll give you one simple and best example for polymorphism. For example, now observe sir very clearly. Here one student is there. Okay now, here one student is there. Okay now, this students in home. Okay now, like a students in home, he wants he is in with parents. He will talk like a today class. Okay now, today class is good, today class is not good, today sir explained polymorphism very good. So like that, in that home he will behave like some innocent people. Same student coming with friends, he will talk like a yesterday night brand was not good, today we'll go with some new brand or otherwise some new cigar. So like that, like a same student only, he'll talk like a brands and some cigar, like that. Same student coming to that Hyderabad or Chennai, like that, he'll behave like some different, like a stylish like that. Now observe very clearly here, same student only, same student with the parents, he will behave like some innocent people. Same student with coming to friends, he will behave like some different, like a brand cigar, like that. Same student coming with some other cities, he will behave like a different. So here also polymorphism is nothing but object shows different behavior at different stages. Same person is showing different behaviors at different stages is nothing but polymorphism. Okay now, in Java there are mainly two types of polymorphism. Okay now, Java there are mainly two types of polymorphism. Here there are two types. What are the two types is nothing but, first one is a compile time polymorphism. And the second one is a runtime polymorphism. First one is a compile time polymorphism, second one is a runtime polymorphism. Okay now, first compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Now we will discuss about very clearly both compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Okay now observe sir here, polymorphism. In this polymorphism there are two types. The first one is a second. Now first here I will go with first one, compile time polymorphism. And the second one is runtime polymorphism. Here this compile time polymorphism is also known as early binding. Okay now, this compile time polymorphism is also known as early binding. Early binding is nothing but, here the binding will be done by before execution time. Okay now, early binding is nothing but, here binding will be done by the before execution. So that's why this is also known as early binding. Next, coming to that runtime polymorphism, here this runtime polymorphism is also known as a late binding. Okay now, runtime polymorphism is also known as a late binding. Late binding is nothing but, here binding will be done at execution time. Okay now, execution time. So that's why this is also known as late binding. Okay, now here I'll give you another one definition also. It's like a this compile time polymorphism is also known as a static binding. Okay, now static binding. Here the static binding is nothing but here rebinding is not possible. So that's why this compile time polymorphism is also known as static binding. And coming to that runtime polymorphism, here binding will be done at execution time. Okay, now binding will be done at execution time. So that's why this runtime polymorphism is also known as a dynamic binding. Okay, now the runtime polymorphism is also known as a dynamic binding. Dynamic binding. Okay, now observe sir very clearly. Again, I'll give you one overview. Polymorphism is nothing but an object shows different behavior at different stages of its life cycle is nothing but polymorphism. There are two types of polymorphism. First one is a compile time polymorphism and second one is a runtime polymorphism. Here the first one in the interview point of view, very important question. Okay, now they'll ask like a first one like a, what is a compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Otherwise, what is the early binding or late binding, and they'll ask what is static binding and dynamic binding. Here, now observe sir here again. This compile time polymorphism can be achieved by, okay, now this compile time polymorphism can be achieved by using method overloading. Okay, now method overloading. This compile time polymorphism can be done by like a compile time polymorphism can be achieved by using method overloading, and runtime polymorphism can be achieved by method overriding. Okay, now method overriding and inheritance and upcasting also. Okay, now upcasting also. Okay, now so if you want to achieve the compile time polymorphism, then we have to go for method overloading. If you want to achieve the runtime polymorphism, then we have to learn method overriding, inheritance and upcasting. Okay, now here in the interview room, maximum of question, 99% interview students face the question is, what is the difference between method overloading and method overriding also. Now I'll give you one simple example about this method overriding. What is a method overriding? Okay, now what is a method overriding? Okay, now method overloading also we'll discuss, no worries. Okay, now here method overriding is nothing but, okay, now here child class acquiring the properties from parent class, child class acquiring the properties from parent class, child class acquiring the properties from parent class, and implementation and its implementation according to child class, I mean I'll give you one example, then you can understand very clearly. Okay, now here, now observe sir, here I'll write, no problem. Now observe, here I am creating one class. My class name is a parent class. P is nothing but a parent class. Okay, now here P is nothing but parent class. Here one class is there. The class name is a parent class. In that parent class, parents is said parent class having one method called marry method. Public void marry method. Okay, now in that parent class have one method. What is that method? Marry method. In that marry method, here system dot out dot println parents said you marry with some heroine like a Samantha, Nayanthara, like that. Okay, now parents said you marry. Parents said to the son you marry with Samantha. But here now observe very clearly. Here I am creating another one class. Class name is a child class. This child class extending the properties from extends parent class. Okay, now observe sir very clearly here. Overriding is nothing but child class extending the property from parent class. I mean child class is accessing that property. I mean child class is accessing that marry method. Okay now, overriding that method. Okay now, child class is accessing that parent class method, but here implementation according to the child class. I mean marriage we want, but we don't want Samantha. We want some other new thing. System dot out dot println. Then here I'll go with some Rashmika Mandana like that. Rashmika like that. Okay now observe sir, here I said that only child class acquiring the properties from parent class. This is the child class. This child class is acquiring the property. Which property? Marry method property. Okay now, child class acquiring the property marry method property, but here implementation according to the child class. Okay now, this child class method not is supported with parent class implementation. Okay now, here observe very clearly. Overriding is nothing but child class is acquiring the property from parent class, but implementation according to child class is nothing but method overriding. Okay now, this is the story about method overriding. Now we will go with method overloading also, no problem. Method overloading. Okay now observe sir, here I am writing method overloading. Method overloading. Now observe sir, here method overloading is nothing but here developing multiple methods in a class, with the same name, but different parameters is nothing but method overloading. Okay now, method overloading is nothing but developing multiple methods in a class with the same name but different parameters is nothing but method overloading. Okay now, I'll give you one example. Now observe sir, here I am creating a one class. My class name is some demo. Whatever the class name you want, you can take, no problem. I have created one class. My class name is demo. Now observe very clearly. Here I am creating one method. Here my method name is public void em1 method. For example, here I am creating one method. Okay, now my method name is em1 method. In that em1 method, here I am not passing any parameters. Okay, now here I am not passing any parameters. Next, after that, here I am creating another one method, public void em1 method. Okay, now em1 method. Here the method overloading is nothing but same method name. Okay, now method name should be same. Okay, now same method name, but here we have to pass different parameters. Here there is no parameters. I mean, so here we have to pass some parameters. Okay, now we have to pass some parameters. Okay, now observe sir, here if you want, here I'll create another one method, public void m1. Okay, now here also m1 method, here also m1 method, here also m1 method, but here we have to pass some different parameters, int a. Okay, now this is not a method overloading. Here we will get error. Why? Because here and here also parameters should be same. Okay, now here we have to differentiate. So for that, here if you want, here we can use some other parameters, string b. This is the method overloading. Okay, now method overloading is nothing but developing multiple methods, same name but different argument list is nothing but method overloading. Okay, now after that, execution starts from where? Main method. So for that, here I am creating one main method, public static void main string array of args. Okay, now if you want, here I will write one print statement, system.out.println non-parameterized. Okay, now here we are not passing any parameters, so non-parameterized. Here also I am writing system.out.println int type method. Okay, now here also I am processing system.out.println int comma string, int comma string type method. Okay now, done. And now observe sir here, I have created one main method also here. Now observe here, this method, this method, this method, all the methods is non-static method. So non-static methods we can't access directly. So for that we have to create an object. So how to create an object? Demo d is equal to new demo. Okay now, here we have to call the all the methods. How we can call the method? For example, I want to call this non-parameterized method. So object reference variable d dot m1. Now we will get output non-parameterized method. For example, I want to call second method also. Then here I have to call d dot m1 of int a method I am calling. So for that here we have to pass the value int a, integer type value I want to pass. Then here I will write some 100 or 10, 20, whatever you want you can pass. Next again I want to call this method again d dot m1 of int a. Okay na, 10 comma next string b. Otherwise here I will write 143 comma string na, so Java. Okay na, 143 Java. So like that here I am calling the methods. This is nothing but method overloading. If you want here I will write output also. The output for this program is, first we are calling non-parameterized method, this method. So here we will get output is non-parameterized method. Non-parameterized method. Second, here I am calling d dot m1 of 100, this method. So here we will get int type method. Here we will get int type method. After that I am calling d dot m1 of 143 and some Java. So here we will get this method. What is the method here? Int comma string type. Int comma string type method. Int comma string type method. Okay now, this is the story of method overloading. If you want here I will give you rules for method overloading also. Rules for method overloading. Rules for method overloading is, the first rule is the type of argument should be differ. Type of argument should be differ. Type of argument should be differ. Okay na, like here there is a no type, here integer type is there, here some string type is there. Okay na, type of argument should be differ. And the second one same, position of argument should be differ. Next third one, length of argument should be differ. Okay na, length of argument should be differ. This is the story about method overloading. Again I'll give you one overview. Polymorphism. Polymorphism is nothing but an object shows different behavior at different stages of its life cycle is nothing but polymorphism. There are two types of polymorphism. First one is a compile time polymorphism and second one is a runtime polymorphism. This compile time polymorphism is also known as a early binding or static binding. This runtime polymorphism is also known as a late binding or dynamic binding. Okay now, next after that here, to achieve the compile time polymorphism, here we have to use method overloading. To achieve the runtime polymorphism, here we have to use method overriding, inheritance and upcasting. Okay now, method overloading is nothing but developing multiple methods inside a class, same name but different argument list is nothing but method overloading. Next, method overriding. Method overriding is nothing but child class acquiring the property from parent class, but here implementation according to the child class is nothing but method overriding.